I thought that the progressive left, the extreme left, really, really ruined the election for the Democrats.
The progressives are the one going, people in this country want Medicare for all.
Hey, it's been a while since I engaged in some nice and easy Democratic Party discourse. So how about it? Stephen A. Smith was on The Daily Show where Jon Stewart kindly dismantled his clownery. So I have a couple clips to get to here. Here is the first one.
I don't think anybody, I'm a centrist at heart. I always vote, I usually vote Democrat. The only Republican I've ever voted for was Chris Christie, the former governor of New Jersey. Outside of that, I've always voted Democrat. But there's a lot of things that I think can be done differently. I thought the left blew this election more so than him winning it.
Really?
Oh yeah, the left definitely blew it. I thought that the progressive left, the extreme left, really, really ruined the election for the Democrats. And that's that's how I view it. It's the truth. We might care if he's in the White House or not, but we don't care whether he's in jail or not. And if you're the left and you engaged in what the right would say is lawfare, trying to use the courts to keep from having to compete with him.
Right.
And then you're putting forth some of these policies, whether it's transgender issues or other stuff that they would bring up. You had a lot of people that saying that's not where our focus should lie. We're not
But
trying
don't you think that's their focus?
Whose focus?
The right.
Okay.
I feel like the right is far more focused on where you go to the bathroom than the left. I feel like the left is a more laissez-faire, look, I think the left is it's easy to paint the extreme and to create a hyperbolic vision of the left as this woke army. I think it's exaggerated.
When you're running for an election, it's about what's going to win. And they knew that was a strategy that was going to be a winning strategy for them.
But then how is it the left's fault if it's not real?
Because you got to know what works and what doesn't and fight fire with fire. You got to know how to win it, how to win.
They called him Hitler.
It's good. Well, did that work?
No.
Did that work?
No.
Exactly. A matter of fact, a lot of people dismissed that argument because they accused the left of engaging in the extreme because you didn't want to compete against them. Think about this.
No, how about you think about this? Why do you keep fast talking past the fact that Jon Stewart continues running circles around you and proving all of your points wrong? This is the Democrat Ben Shapiro. Why is this one of the leading potential contenders for the next election? I get that he's entertaining, he's well-spoken, but come on. If you can't understand the dynamics within the Democratic Party, you don't know what the left even is, how can you possibly be in consideration for running the party? So I'm going to get to a breakdown here briefly of his whole anti-trans garbage that he spews here. But this was like, he goes back and forth. Why are they going after Trump for breaking the law? Because he broke the law. They weren't trying to jail him to avoid an election with him. They were trying to put him in jail, or at least they should have been trying to put him in jail. But they were going after him legally because he broke the law. Shouldn't the president be held to the same standards as everybody else? So, like, what a weird argument to argue that Democrats or anybody shouldn't have been going after Trump for breaking the law. But then he goes on later, oh, they should have fought fire with fire. Jon Stewart points out they called him Hitler. I mean, I think it's fair to argue that Democrats didn't fight hard enough in different ways. But the idea that you're saying they didn't fight at all or they should have fought fire with fire, and then there's examples of them doing so, and then he moves on to a different topic with his Ben Shapiro fast talk. It just the whole thing's so bizarre. But this is the one point he was trying to make that had any sort of substance to it that also completely breaks apart if you actually look into the data and what people voted on. So this was a post-election poll. This is from GQR. So I'll link to the full thing below if you want to go through it. But the point that matters here, nationally, 64% of voters recall seeing an anti-trans attack ad against Kamala Harris. There we go. That's the election. That's why they lost. Oh, but keep reading. Just 4%, dead last on this list, identify opposing surgeries for trans people and trans kids' participation in sports as issues motivating them to vote. In fact, when asked directly which candidate represents your views on transgender people, voters pick Harris, 52 to 40%. So she won on that issue. Yet somehow this was supposed to be the reason Democrats lost the election. Absurd. And if you look at the Gallup poll that they also reference here, this was before the election, but if you look at exit polling, it's essentially in line with the top choices here in terms of the economy, democracy. but issues of importance to U.S. voters. So you have to go to the very bottom of the list. Transgender rights. It is the least important issue for voters for the simple fact that the vast majority of people are not trans. People tend to vote on issues that personally impact them. Whether or not that's a good thing, up to you to decide. I would hope human rights would rank higher, but this is the reality. Transgender rights, trans rights, that this is not a motivating issue for most people. So the idea that anti-trans ads or that the trans issues generally were the motivating reason why people voted for Trump is insane, does not bear out in the actual data. Let me get to the next clip here where Jon Stewart really completely dismantles what Stephen A. Smith is saying.
Think about it. You call yourself the left, you call yourself a progressive party, and you are standing up at the State of the Union clapping, and chanting 4 more years for a man that was going to be 82.
Right.
Once the inauguration day took place with 4 more years. And America looked at you and said, have you lost your ever-loving mind? That's what the hell happened. It's very simple. It ain't that damn complicated.
So that's two separate things.
Yes, sir.
One is they allowed what people would consider to be a centrist, old guard Democrat to run again for president, and then you say the progressive left wing is the one that didn't. They didn't choose Joe Biden. They don't have the power in that party. Chuck Schumer is out there, writing 8 strongly worded questions to Donald Trump about getting. The progressives are the one going, people in this country want Medicare for all. Do something. They're the ones that have a principled agenda that they are going to put forth that all the Democrats have run from in under the guise of we have to be moderate and we have to be centrist. But that doesn't appeal to changing the culture and dynamic of how this government should work by the people, for the people, of the people.
That's a great argument, and I don't disagree. What I'm saying to you is that
we're done here.
How has Stephen A. Smith not heard this before or has not absorbed this information before? The left, the progressive left, they're the ones that were pushing Joe Biden? What are you talking about? How are you possibly in any consideration for any sort of public office within the Democratic Party when you don't even understand the dynamics of the party? Unbelievably stupid. I would be embarrassed if I was on this show as a potential candidate. My name was in the discussion for the Democratic Party, and I didn't understand the basic dynamics of the support base for Joe Biden. Unfreaking believable. So, look, Jon Stewart does a good job here at dismantling this garbage in a kind fashion. Stephen A. Smith is clearly not the enemy. So, you have someone on like this, you talk to them. The best way to try and change their mind or inform them is to be kind to them. Don't be a piece of crap like I'm being right now. But I'm not talking to Stephen A. Smith. I'm just trying to talk to people out there. Do not support someone this clueless. This is somebody who I can absolutely see be taken in by whoever's around him. This could be like a Trump scenario where the last person in the room is the opinion he keeps. Please, let's try and avoid a situation where the people with the most power, the most money, those who are the most crafty, are the ones who get what they want. I think it's important that, moving forward, assuming there's going to be another election, when looking at the kinds of leaders that an opposition party needs, you need somebody who is principally centered in human rights and workers' rights. If you don't have that center, you don't have that both experience, but also, just a track record of fighting for human rights, workers' rights, you should not be in any consideration for any kind of office within the Democratic Party.